When there's a big story and someone dies and there's an investigation and there are civil suits and one of the people at the center of it all is a big, shiny star, you can bet that everybody's going to be talking, but the last person who should be talking is that big, shiny star, or really anybody in that concentric circle around him or her. But yet Alec Baldwin decided tonight to give one of those big ABC glossy primetime interviews to George Stephanopoulos. George is a great interviewer, and Alec answered all of his questions. But the things that were said may not have been too helpful to his case, and maybe they were. In particular, there's someone who I know watched with a discerning eye, and that is one Mark Geragos, who is the defense attorney to the stars. And when I say that, here are just a few of his clients: Scott Peterson, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, Winona Ryder, and many, many more. So I want to put you in the shoes of being the defense attorney for Alec Baldwin, Mark Geragos, after you saw that hour. And how do you feel right now?
I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. Look, his emotion, he was obviously emotional. It appeared by all accounts, albeit he's an actor, that it was genuine and that it was authentic. The problem is, this does not move the ball forward in any way, shape, or form. From a criminal defense standpoint, the idea of, I'm not pulling the trigger, but I didn't check it, and it's somebody else's fault, that doesn't fly. We're not talking about an intentional act. We're talking about a negligent act. You've already got other people, notably George Clooney, saying that it's insanity. If you're going to say, I mean, there's a subtle amount of this that is victim blaming, meaning you're saying I was doing what the cinematographer was telling me. Well, the cinematographer certainly didn't tell you not to check the gun, so that doesn't help. And then you've already admitted that you pulled it back or you cocked the gun, and
hammer.
All that does is get the hammer. All that does is get you into trouble with civil liability. So it might make you feel better, and this is the problem with people who are high profile and famous, as distinguished from infamous. If you are famous and you have people around you who are telling you whatever you want to hear, and you're in the midst of this storm, somebody needs to step up and just say, sit down, shut up, and let me handle this. Because this, while it might make you feel better and it may galvanize the very polarized positions, it doesn't do you any good whatsoever in either a criminal determination by a prosecutor or a civil determination by the lawyers who are coming after you in a feeding frenzy.
I think I know almost to the bite which one you're talking about, because George really, summed it up by saying, do you feel any guilt when it comes to what has happened? Now, I was astounded at the answer, and certainly all the promos left that big, long pause. Well, it turned out there wasn't a big, long pause, and there was a very specific and clear answer. He didn't even need to think it through. He knew exactly how he felt about that question, and here it is.
No. I feel that there is. I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me. I mean, I honest to God, if I felt that I was responsible, I might have killed myself if I thought I was responsible.
Okay, back with Roger Neal and also with Steve Wolf. They're joining you, Mark Geragos. So listen, it's one thing to be emphatic. This is not my problem. I did not do this. I am not to blame. But then there is also the image that creates. And Roger, I know that you've watched the silos that have created on either side of the Baldwin story. And I don't know that they're not less entrenched tonight.
The way he answered that question, he just damaged himself real good. I mean, if you had believed what he said earlier, when he answered this question, he just blew it. He doesn't know when to stop talking is the problem. And, a good PR person coordinates with someone like Mark, and you work together as a team when you have somebody like this that you're representing. But when you have somebody who's sort of a loose cannon, it's really hard to get them under control because he's afraid. And you could just look and tell he's afraid of what's coming. So he's trying to clear himself ahead of time. But I think he's going to get himself, publicity-wise, he's shattering his image even worse than it was. So I think his best thing would be just to shut up and let other people handle this for him.
And one last comment from you, Steve Wolf, before you go about, listen, what you said off the top of the show, and Mark Geragos, I think you might have missed it, but Steve gave a remarkable demonstration of just how easy it actually could be to make Alec Baldwin's argument plausible that he didn't pull the trigger, or at least didn't think he pulled the trigger. But Steve, when it comes right down to all the brass tacks and an actual appearance on a stand in court, when people like you come in and you're the experts, do you think that what he said tonight is going to hold water?
I don't think so. I think that in his effort to try to win the court of public opinion, he may have lost the court of judicial oversight and put himself in a worse bind. And even if it's just an accident, even if you think other people, had responsibility in this, to not feel some sense of guilt about having taken a life, even if accidentally, is unconscionable to me. I can't imagine being in his position and not feeling tremendous remorse and guilt about what happened, even if you had only a small
Ashleigh,
part
can
of
I
the
jump in, because
responsibility.
that's a brilliant observation. As I'm watching it, and the word is guilt that's going to come up. You could make the pivot. You could make the pivot and say, in a legal sense, no. However, do I feel guilty? Do I feel morally and ethically responsible? Yes, own it. I mean, if you're being authentic, that's where you go. You don't go into this, trying to parse it and come up with this. It wasn't me. It was somebody else. I'm not going to say who. You lose everybody when you do that.
That's right.
I mean, it's a fascinating discussion. It is not over yet. I look at these pictures of this beautiful cinematographer who had such a blossoming career ahead of her. Not a negative word said about her personally or professionally. And then, of course, there is the husband and the 9-year-old son. Alec Baldwin speaking to that son, no longer having a mom. And as Alec Baldwin said, I have 6 young children, and they light up with their mother, not so much with me. Roger, Neal, thank you. Steve Wolf, thank you. I look forward to speaking to both of you again. Mark, thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.